Hello parents at St John's, it's Mrs Kirby here again. I'm here for your third instalment. So I've done a video called What is Phonics, I've done a video called Sound Buttons, and today I'm going to look at the two different types of reading books that your children will be bringing home to be reading with you each evening. Now I know reading at home can sometimes be really tricky with your children. Some children will love to sit down and do a bit of reading with you. Some children won't. We completely understand that at school. But if you could just try 10 minutes a day with your child, it makes such a huge difference to their reading ability, which allows them to have access to the whole curriculum. If your child can read, they can access so much more than if they're not so confident with reading. So just 10 minutes a day, and you can bargain with your child and say that you'll read a page and that they've got to read a page, so it doesn't feel like such a hard, long task for your child. So in your book bag, in the child's book bag, not your book bag, they will be bringing home 2 books at least. Sometimes they might have 3 because they'll have a library book or a book corner book too. So 2 books. They will have a phonics book and they will have an Oxford Reading Tree book. And you read them in quite different ways and they've got quite different purposes. So I wanted to make it really clear about what the different books are for. So the phonics books all look like these ones, and somewhere on the front they have read, write, ink on the front. So sometimes it will look like that, sometimes it might look like that, and sometimes it will just be written in white where it says read, write, ink. These are the phonics books and they're read in a much different way to the Oxford Reading Tree books. So I just want it to be really clear how you read each one with your child. So at the beginning of your child's phonics journey, they'll start on the red books that use really simple words to build simple sentences that your child can read. The phonics books are really important because it's your child's chance to practice all the phonics they've been learning at school whilst they're reading. And the teachers don't just select these at random, they pick a book that your child is able to read successfully based on whatever sounds they've been learning in phonics. So this is at the beginning of the phonics journey, so when your child is learning or has learned the whole of the set 1 sounds, and this is a red book. And inside there's loads of help for you. It says how to use this book, and it's got a little glossary there that can help you too. Then on the inside pages it's got the speed sounds. These are all the sounds that your child will have learned so they're able to access this book. So it's a really good idea to just recap with your child what these are at speed, which is why they're called speed sounds. Then on this page it goes through the green words that would be in this book. And remember, the green words are the words that your child can sound out, that you can use their phonics to read. The words that Fred the puppet would have helped them with. So they can use all of their sounds to sound out these green words. These red words, do you remember you can't Fred a red, are the tricky words that your child will be learning by sight. So just by looking at the word and knowing what the word is. They can't sound these ones out, so they can't sound out the. Then there's always a little introduction at the start of all these stories that's there for the adult to read to the child before they start reading. So you'd read the little introduction to your children, then they'd have a go at reading the rest of the book. Now, when they start reading, you'll notice that the starts of the sentences don't have capital letters and the ends of the sentences don't have full stops. That's so that your child doesn't lose the flow of using their phonics to read. Sometimes children can see the capital letters and not know what they are, so then therefore they can't sound them out. So there's no capital letters and full stops in these red books. This is just where they start. And you'll notice that as your child reads, all the red words that they can't sound out, you can't Fred a red, are red. So they can easily see, oh, this is a word I can't sound out. It's one I just have to remember. Oh, it's the. So your child might say the, and they'll remember that word. Then as they read this, they might be going frog, frog, k, a, n, can, s, I, ng, sing. So you'd be expecting them to sound out the word and then blend it together. Often when I read with children, they'll say the, frog, k, a, n, s, I, ng. They haven't blended the word afterwards, they're just sounding out each one. So you want them to segment it, frog, frog. They might be saying it under their breath, so they might say the frog. That's absolutely fine, just as long as they're thinking about the sounds that they can see rather than guessing. If your child, you can tell they're just guessing, say to them, use your sounds, let me help you. You demonstrate one and get your child to do it. If your child finds reading exhausting and they find it quite tiring, don't be afraid to let them read one sentence, you read the next one. That's absolutely fine as long as they're getting some practice. And it's just as important for children to hear books read to them as it is for them to read too. So don't worry about reading to them as well. Then at the end of this book, there's always questions to talk about. So it will tell you which page to turn to, and then you answer the questions with them. And then at the very back, speedy green words. So some words that they can quickly sound out and have a go at reading. So that red book is right at the beginning of their journey. Then it gets a little bit harder, so they might go on to green. They go through different colour bands, and this is set up in exactly the same way. If you look at the front here, once you get past red books, it tells you which sounds are focused on in that book. Okay, so all of the vowels are focused on in this book, and it follows the same system. Glossary to help you get used to the terminology, how to use this book, some reading activities you can do with your child. Again, speed sounds that you can go through with your child, all the green words that will help them read that book, and the red words that they'll definitely need to recognise so they can read the book. These books are carefully selected by the teachers, as I said, so your child is successful. They should be able to sound out and read this book pretty accurately. I like this as well. As the books get trickier, there's always a vocabulary check. If there's a word that might be a little bit tricky for your child to understand, it's explain the meaning. So always check that as well. And again, here's the introduction. That's designed for the adult to read out, just to get the child into the story and set the scene. And then again, your child will be able to access and read this book. As in the last book, all of the red words that they can't sound out are red. So as your child comes across it, you can say, oh, that's a red word. Remember, we can't sound that one out. And they can have a go at remembering what it is. And just like the other one, it tells you what page to turn to and a suitable question to ask your child about what they've read. That's called your child's comprehension. So once they've read it all, you're asking the comprehension questions to see what they've comprehended, which means understood about what they've read, which is a really important skill as they go further up the school. And then again, some speed words at the end to practice. And this is another example of a phonics book where it's got a sound focus here, a digraph there, and again it follows the same system. Glossary of terms, how to use the book, the sounds, look, there's more on this page because it's a little bit more tricky, they will have learnt more sounds. Green word, red words, vocabulary check, and the introduction for you to read to set the scene. And as in all of the other ones, red words are red, the tricky words are red. The other words they can all sound out and decode themselves. Your child will also be bringing home a book that looks more like this. This is called Oxford Reading Tree, or ORT. That just means that's what the scheme of the books are called. And on the back it tells you what stage each book is. So this one's a stage 8, this one's a stage 3. These ORT books start with stage 1, and your child will go through stage 1 all the way up to stage 13 books. So your child will be reading these up to about year 3, possibly beyond for a little bit. These are very different. Your child will not be able to sound out all of the words in these books. Some of the words will be completely unknown words that your child might not have ever seen before. So these books are carefully selected by the teacher so your child is successful in reading it. These books are still carefully selected by the teacher, but they might not be as successful in reading all of the words because they won't come across some of them. They might have sounds in that they've not seen before. So it's just a bit of a warning that your child will find these trickier. But we still feel it's important for children to have these books, because sometimes they will come across books in their life that aren't phonics books. So they need to understand that not every word can be a word that they sound out. These books also offer more comprehension opportunities, so more opportunities for you to ask questions about a bit more of a story, something a bit more interesting. So as I said before, if your child gets a little bit exhausted by reading, don't be afraid, especially with these ones where you read a page, they read a page, or even you're just reading this book to them, showing them how to read it and asking them questions about what they've read. So this is a stage 4 book, a bit of an easier one. And just to kind of reiterate the point that your child might not know some of these words, this word here, dolphin, has a P and a H in the middle, the P and the H, which is making a F sound in dolphin. A child reading a stage 4 book might not know that yet. So that's quite hard, but it's still important for them to experience these books too. This doesn't offer as much guidance in the front of kind of things to ask your child, but it does offer more of an interesting story with nice illustrations that go with it that your child will be more interested in. And these characters in these books, Biff, Chip and Kipper and Floppy the dog, go through all of the books, so your child becomes really familiar with them. So that's Dolphin Pool, that's a little bit easier, stage 4. And as I said, they go all the way to 13. This is a stage 8, so you can see it's much longer, much more complex. But again, there's the nice illustrations that match the text, and this is really good for comprehension. Have they understood what they've read? And it's a little bit more interesting. A Day in London, it offers them a little bit more of an insight into what London's like. So they're the 2 different reading books that are read in very different ways. Your phonics books, which are the colourful ones that always look like this, or where your child should be reading it mainly independently, should be using their sounds. The Oxford Reading Tree books they will need more help with, because it doesn't just offer the sounds that they know, there's other sounds in there too. I hope that's helped you. Do ask me if you've got any questions, and I'll try my best to help, and also ask any of the teachers at school. They'll be more than willing to help you. My next video is going to be all about the red words. Now, as I said, they're sight words, words that your child just has to know to be a successful reader. So I'm going to offer some little games and things that you could try at home to help your child learn those words. Thank you for listening. Bye.